Hello. I'm Joanna Reeves, and I'm chair and founder of Conservative Friends of Neurodiversity. And I've got over here David Moore, who is the Friends of Neurodiversity military spokesman, as well as being the assistant to making these podcasts happen. And we're very lucky today because we have with us one of London's leading Conservatives, GLA member, Andrew Boff. So, Andrew, thanks so much.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Well, it's wonderful to have you. And we have a shared interest, of course, in neurodiversity. Andrew has written a report, authored, commissioned, a report.
My research, if I say I wrote all of it, my researcher is going to get very annoyed.
Okay, so we don't want to upset Andrew's researcher. So there is a report for which Andrew
I suppose authored is about right.
Yes, Andrew is responsible for this report happening. And so the basis of the report is effectively how to make London the best city in the world to be autistic. And by extension, I suppose, also a member of the neurodivergent community. So we could also cover people with dyspraxia, all the other forms of neurodiversity when we talk about this. What was it that got you interested in the neurodiverse in London?
You know, like most of my great ideas, there's somebody else's. And it was just over a period of time of realizing, having some friends who were on the spectrum, or are on the spectrum, and listening to what they were saying. And I remember one particular chap, I won't say his name because I've got no permission to say it, but he's a conservative activist. And he proudly walks around with a badge that says autistic conservative. And I thought that's fantastic, that is. So own your diagnosis and being able to, articulating as he does about what the problems are that they face. And then a marvelous guy called Dan Harris talked to me from Neurodiversity in Business.
Yes.
And it just sort of happened coincidence that a lot of people have messaged me, and Dan set up this marvelous scheme in Deloitte for employing neurodiverse people.
Yes.
And it made me realize that actually we had a role on the GLA to perform in this, because if you go through something like the London Plan, which is supposed to be about planning London for the future, not a single mention of neurodiversity. If you look even in the health plan that the mayor has, not a single mention of neurodiversity.
Wow.
So it made me realize we need to change something here. Something needs to happen.
Yes, and in your report, you've got numbers, figures saying how many Londoners are likely to be affected in one way or another by a neurodiversity.
Yes, I don't even remember what that number is, but in terms of things like employment, only 16% of autistic people. I originally started thinking about people on the autistic spectrum, and then broadened that to other neurodiverse conditions. But only 16% of autistic people are currently in employment,
which is completely crazy.
Which is crazy. It is a complete waste of skills when we're looking for skills in this country, and we have shortages of talented people. It's bizarre.
Absolutely. And in fact, gold star for me, because when I reread your report this morning in preparation, I hope I'm right in saying this, 84,000 people in London.
That's right. Yeah, remember that figure. Yes.
So if only 16% of 84,000 are employed, that's, I'm not going to even try and do that, but it's not very many, is it? And I think we all know, let's not expose our maths. But what I do know is that the challenges that come with autism also bring joys and talents and uniqueness. So there's a lot of unique talent that's going to waste.
Yes, and I think that was the inspiration behind what Dan's put in Deloitte, is that you could say they do it through corporate social responsibility, that they're going up, but actually no. it isn't about that, actually. It's about that there is a commercial advantage for having these very skilled people in their workforce and being able to make that working environment for them so accepting that they find it easy to use their skills. I mean, we had a problem with our little mathematics earlier. You know, I know some diverse people who would have answered it in a microsecond.
Yeah, absolutely,
so,
absolutely. So it's maths, right. Coding are the real classic ones, but there are other things. Being able to think in 3D is another thing, which means people can draw.
I don't like to caricature people because it's unhelpful, because there'll always be somebody who isn't that caricature. And but there is a sort of clarity of thinking that I've found amongst neurodiverse directness. Yeah.
One thing I also think to do with business, I mean, I know there are lots of aspects to your report, including policing and travel. I think the ones that really jump out. Business is also another one that jumps out. And I think one of the things where autistic people struggle with business is that the skills you need for a job interview, and this might account for the employment thing, the skills that you need for a job interview might be quite different to the skills that you need for the job. So if you have to convince someone of your abilities and make a good impression on someone, but actually your job is sitting, somewhere quietly doing something which isn't about social skills, you can get lost.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. And I think, if we look at the interview situation, it's riddled with social cues, isn't it?
Yes.
About what's expected of you now that I've said this. What do I expect you to respond to? And for people who have problems with social cues, that puts them on the back foot straight away, puts them at a disadvantage. Yeah. And so, some of the changes that I've recommended are physical changes, say, to the transport network and things like that. But a lot of the changes are whereby we're trying to increase awareness of those conditions, awareness of those of what people might struggle with in social situations.
Yes, it's two strands, really, isn't it? The physical things that we can do, like signage in the tubes or whatever it may be, but then also that, the understanding, the advocating for the fact that there are people who do see things differently and may be triggered or overwhelmed by situations that seem quite innocuous to others.
Well, many of my autistic friends, you can often, you can't nowadays spot people on the tube who may be autistic, but so many people wear earphones. Well, a lot of autistic people will tend to wear earphones to hide the noise, which they can have problems.
It can be overwhelming.
It can be.
It's can be a very chaotic and overwhelming place.
Absolutely, and that chaos is also added to when, for example, there's a change in the timetable.
Oh my goodness!
Or a cancelled train, or the bus has to go on a diversion, or things like that. Now, for us, you think, "No, that's fine. I'll just cope with that." But for people who have such clear view of their tasks ahead of them, and may have problems adjusting to any new situations, that is a real challenge for them. So things that what I'd ask TfL to do is just think about that when I'm not saying you should never cancel a train, you should never redirect. I mean, we try not to, but at least think of the customers who may have additional problems if you do that.
One thing that I've noticed, you get this particularly in airports, but also on the trains, is the number of announcements. So you're sitting there and you're trying to read your book or whatever, or look out of the window, think your thoughts, for goodness sake, just minding your own business. And then you have announcements coming at you every few minutes, and you're not sure, is this an important one? Is it telling me we're not stopping at my stop or something?
Say it's sorted every 5 seconds.
Yes.
Please use the handrail, 5 seconds. But I know how to use the handrail.
And that sorted thing, for some of us, is a little bit annoying, who may be a grammar pedants, maybe that's our thing, because it just puts me on edge a little bit. See it, say it, sorted, what?
I'm married to an English teacher. He goes absolutely bonkers at one lost apostrophe or too many. I mean, it's quite unreasonable.
Well, he's a member of my tribe.
Yes, that's it.
Because Yeah, that onslaught, there's no peace. There's an onslaught of inane messaging, and we just want the messages that matter, and we can all deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, I know this is a challenge for, this isn't, clip my fingers and everything will be perfect, but there should be that awareness so that people have to change things. Just think about all your customers. For example, we should be thinking about the effect it has on people who are blind, people who can't see, people, and people who are deaf. We have to, our customers, or the customers of public services, do not come in this sort of pre-fit mold. They are wide and diverse, and this is about getting neurodiverse people into that recognised diversity that there is amongst the many, many people who use public services in London.
Yeah, absolutely. It almost feels like it's the last diversity. Oh, no, I'm sure.
I don't know, there's probably more.
Yeah, ones we haven't noticed yet or defined yet. What response are you getting from the mayor?
I think at the moment we may be in a good place with the mayor. There's no bandwagon that the mayor doesn't jump on.
Yeah.
And the trouble with that is that it shows a lack of real interest and commitment. So it's been we've had to badger the mayor quite substantially, to the point of writing to him, booking appointments. I ended up putting a motion to the London Assembly, which was unanimously passed and seconded by a Labour Assembly member as well, that we should be incorporating neurodiverse conditions within the London plan, within transport, within policing, and within health. But it's been quite a struggle, but I think we're probably in the right place. He even got to the point of starting to parroting my own words, which was saying he wanted London to be the most neurodiverse friendly city in the world. And you think, okay, he's imitation, best form of flattery.
Yeah.
So that's the aim. I want London to be a beacon of how you can provide for people with neurodiverse conditions.
Oh, absolutely.
It's going to take a long time.
Well, it is.
Not next week, not next year. But we need to move towards it and not move away from it. And we've seen examples in the press recently of how people who provide public services have not quite understood what neurodiversity is, autism is about.
Yeah, and I had in my mind actually, in fact, just this morning, and it's something I was talking about yesterday with someone, was the situation, I think it was Greater Manchester, where that autistic girl found herself being bundled away from her family in unfortunate situations. I
mean, my remit doesn't extend as far as Greater Manchester.
No, if only it did.
Well, I don't know. I can't say that that's never going to happen in London, but what we have pressured the Metropolitan Police is about, you could have somebody. Everybody wants to train the police. If the police officers did all the training that everybody had recommended, they would forever be in the classroom and never be out on the street. So I realise this is a challenge, but there should be some element of their training to make them aware of the varying responses they may get. For example, we have a greater awareness now of certain cultural differences between how people may react to authority, and with they're understanding that now. And if we take the example of that Greater Manchester case, and I don't know the rights or wrong, I can't say who was right, who was wrong, but there was one of the things that police officers have got to be aware of is that many neurodiverse people don't have those social filters that we have. Yeah. And they can often say things that, through that clarity of thinking that they have, which haven't had the benefit of a little bit of editing. Yes. Before it hits the wider world, and that's part of that condition. I mean, some of the things that we've heard said are inexcusable, but you've got to ask yourself where that's come from. Yes, absolutely, and it's very difficult for police officers. Yes, one thing that I was just thinking was that probably
there are police officers who are also members of the neurodivergent community, as I often say. And so they're going to have that as well, that possibility where they miss the cues.
That's a possibility.
That their training might not have covered.
Yes, I mean, for a lot of neurodiverse people, they spend a lot of time, most of their lives, thinking about how I have to. We automatically use filters, don't we?
Hopefully, most of the
There
are times when it's hard.
I put my filters in, and I think this is what I want to say. Should you really say that? It's like tweeting at 11:30 at night.
Yes.
Really a bad idea. Really a bad idea. I've done it a few times myself, and I think, oh my gosh, that's out there for posterity. But many neurodiverse, autistic people particularly, have spent their time every day, 24 hours a day, trying to adjust, understand the world on an intellectual level rather than an instinctive level that people who are not on the spectrum just have.
And how exhausting that must be.
I'm full of admiration for how they, because when you think of social interactions, they are complicated. They are complicated if you break them down, you know.
It's
And you know, let's take for example, when I came here today, I wasn't sure whether or not to take my shoes off or leave them on. You very kindly said leave them on, and I looked around, and everybody else was without shoes, and I thought, no, I'll take them off. You know, because we work on those cues.
Yes.
But if I was to analyse,
but I literally wouldn't have cared what you did.
I know.
Truly.
Another filter.
Another filter.
But you wouldn't know whether I cared.
Yeah, but if we were to break down all the thoughts that were taking place as to whether or not I should do that, for me it was automatic. For some people, it's a bit more of a struggle.
Absolutely, and especially with facial expressions as well. Some people especially can't see those. Neurodiverse people can struggle with that. Yes. And especially over COVID, that was a big struggle as well with masks. They couldn't see people's facial expressions. They weren't sure if someone was happy or angry or sad, and that is a real. Big
I mean, the neurodiverse people are a talented bunch of people who've just got a problem with those social. Well, autistic people have just got a problem with those social cues, and we just need to recognise.
Yeah, and the more understanding that there can be, and I suppose that's what Friends of Neurodiversity, one of the things we want to do is just really to advocate for that and to help with.
I say I was delighted, you know, Joanna. I hadn't heard of the organisation until a little while
we are quite new,
and I was so delighted when I saw.
Oh, and I was delighted when you got in touch.
I was over the moon, because if we can spread this message, not just in the GLA but actually within the party and around the country, because your body is national.
Yes.
So around the party about Conservatives going out there and waving a flag for the inclusion of neurodiverse people.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good initiative.
I think a bit like AI, it's been something that has been ignored for a long time in its potential and what we need to do for policy. And one of the reasons why I branched with AI is there's many neurodiverse people who are working in this expanding industry that is AI. And it's going to be revolutionary. And I think a bit like AI, neurodiversity is being neglected a lot in terms of policy neglect as well. And there's a massive lag that needs to catch up. And I think that's why we've obviously been speaking with legislators like yourself from the London level too, of course, Westminster as well. It happens at every layer, local governments and national.
I've just had an idea.
Yes.
Conservative Friends of AI.
Oh yes, this probably is one. I'm not already set up.
I think
it's job for you.
Absolutely.
Right. I mean, it might not. Just from my perception, and I'm just a politician. I'm not an expert in anything apart from articulating what electors want.
You talk yourself down to.
It's not the job of a politician to be an expert. It's the job of a politician to be mouthy. I wasn't, that term neurodiversity. I hadn't heard of it until a few years back. I wasn't even. I knew what autism was, but the whole dyspraxia and dyslexia and all the other conditions that you can refer to as neurodiverse, I really didn't know that there was a term for it. And so for me, this has been a marvellous journey of doing this little bit of research about what it's like in London to live as a neurodiverse person. Has really opened my eyes.
Well, I think the work you're doing in the GLA with this is just crucial. So it will change people's lives.
Absolutely.
Just making people's lives that little bit easier can actually change their whole life, just by making just one thing easier, like thinking of having ear protectors on the tube. And so, honestly, I couldn't say to you.
Well, I think also we talked about 84,000 autistic people, but actually, what struck me when I published the report and we got these motions through the Assembly, it was a number of people who contacted me and said, my son's neurodiverse, my son's autistic, my sister, my friend, my mother, or anything. I mean, it affects a lot of Londoners, and most London. I have no statistics to support this up, but I reckon most Londoners will know somebody who's got.
Absolutely.
Of course.
99.9%.
Yeah, and I think also this is why it's so important to the party as well, just to sort of speak about the sort of political aspect of what we're doing, is that if the party can show to all the families across the UK that actually, yes, we do understand what a neurodiverse condition is, and we can actually now, we are trying to help. And okay, so education is a massive thing. Of course, that's where it starts. I think probably you can tell really from birth whether a child has dyspraxia, and it affects their whole life. So if we can just do things that help those families, it's got to make people feel even more confident in us as a party. Say even more confident. Hopefully people have some confidence in us.
Well, that's what we're here for.
Much depends on you, Andrew.
Absolutely. Putting you on top of that.
So, well, thanks so much for this chat. It's been absolutely fascinating. Before I cut you off, is there anything else that you feel we need to?
Well, I mean, I'm just interested from the military aspect.
Yes, well,
actually, talk about that
I am absolutely fascinated.
Absolutely, yeah. So we actually, we've had MPs who have supported us, our patrons, etc., who have actually wrote into the MOD and actually asked them about the current situation with entry to the armed forces. Because a lot of people, for example, if they have ADHD, for example, they've had ADHD medication, they're often barred from joining, or there's a certain time, certain years kind of cool down they can before they can actually join. And it's a very strict process, the medical joining the forces, whether it be in the Army, the Navy, or the Royal Air Force. And a lot of people are avoiding getting diagnosed because they don't want that to mess up their medical record when they join. And it's quite a big issue. And now in the US Armed Forces, they recruit people case by case who are neurodiverse, and they actually have a very solid process to that, and it's not a massive barrier to entry. Although the letter that MPs have received, as in what the MOD have told us, those letters have said that there are some case-by-case basis. It's quite rare, and they're trying to find a way we can really expand that, because AI is a new field of warfare. We've seen it in the Ukraine war, but cyber warfare. We've already seen in the news very recently how the military don't have enough personnel to tackle cyber attacks from Russia and other threats. Now, I personally think that's because of that barrier as well. There's still a very large barrier to very talented people who want to join the forces who are neurodiverse, who can't, or stifled because of those restrictions on the medical. So that would be one of our kind of advocacy areas.
Totally.
Yes. Unfortunately, we don't have an army in London, so I can't, so I never touched on that area. But I am fascinated that so basically it's the policy that's getting in the way of more.
Arguably, yes, absolutely.
And that is interesting, because we should be moving to a situation where we judge people as individuals, shouldn't we? And their individual strengths.
Absolutely.
Rather than just having a policy that says no, you can't because of this.
Absolutely.
I know plenty of people who are dyslexic, for example, and they're appalling in written exams. Of course they are. Now,
but their aptitude is exceptional.
Incredible. Yes.
Fast-paced combat situation.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
and we should be judging that individual, taking into account their limitations, but never allowing those limitations to outweigh their talents.
Absolutely.
We all just want to be given a chance, don't we? Whoever we are.
Exactly.
We all just want to be accepted for who we are, let our talents speak for themselves, and also I'm sure we all accept we have drawbacks too, but you know.
It's a meritocracy.
It's called being human.
Yes, and that
And
meritocracy is, needs to be extended to that to the neurodiverse community.
And welcome to the Conservative Party, because that's what
Absolutely,
we're about.
that's what we're about. Absolutely,
That's what we're about.
Opportunity.
Yeah.
And meritocracy.
Yes. Opportunity and meritocracy. That sounds like a really good place to
manifesto.
to end. Yes.
Yes.
This is our manifesto:
Yes,
meritocracy
absolutely.
and opportunity.
Absolutely.
So thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you,
It's
Andrew.
been just brilliant
Indeed,
chatting with
it
you.
has been fascinating.
I hope lots of people watch this.
Thank you.